You gonna lay down? Well, hi to you too. You ready? What do you want to talk about? How on our walk yesterday you saw a cat and very nearly pulled me off my feet trying to chase it. Don't just pretend it didn't happen. Hello, best friends, and welcome back to our cozy space of the big wide internet. I am so happy to see you. You are looking just stunning, and I hope your week is going amazing so far. If you are new here, then hi, my name is Liz, and this is Lily. Make no mistake, we are all just side characters in her world because she is the main character. Yes, you are. You are the main character, aren't you? So we are back today with another episode of Come Scroll With Me, where rather than just scrolling on our own, we come together, we put the social back in social media, and then we chat about all the things we saw on our scrolling adventures in the comments down below. For those of you tuning in for the first time, it's a whole thing. But we are changing the vibe today. It's going to be a little bit creepier than usual because we are going to be reading stories from r/LetsNotMeet and r/creepyencounters. For those of you who haven't visited either of these subs before, the general rules for both are pretty similar. The main ones being that the stories have to have happened directly to the person posting them, and they must be non-fiction and non-paranormal. So basically all of these very spooky and presumably very true stories involve encounters with human beings that the OPs posting the stories are hoping to God that they never encounter again for the rest of their lives. But don't be scared, we have Lily here to protect us. So we're going to dive straight into our first story, which is from Let's Not Meet, and it's called The Photographers. Just a quick FYI before we begin, I scrolled down to the bottom and OP does say that English isn't their first language, and so there might be a couple of spots where there's errors, and I'll just correct them as we go just to make it easier to understand for you guys. But anyway, I was around 9 to 10 years old when this happened, but I remember clearly pretty much everything that happened. So this was school. It was lunch break, which lasted 2 hours. It might just be me, but 2 hours seems like a long lunch break for a 9 to 10-year-old in school, no? I was with a group of friends and we were playing like pretty much everyone else, but we started to notice people in front of the school. And when I mean people, I mean around 20. Usually there wasn't anyone, or they were just walking by. A woman approached the entry of the school and she started taking pictures of every kid she saw. We could tell she was taking pictures because of the flash. An adult of the school went to see her and told her to stop, but she didn't. Instead, she just smiled terrifyingly at him and said something I didn't hear, but it looked kind of like when a mother comforts you in a "it's going to be okay" way. I don't know if anyone's seen the movie Smile, but these are the vibes that I'm getting here. So he started to get mad because, well, taking photos of children like that is weird as hell. Eventually she went away, but that didn't really change anything if you want my opinion, because everyone else in front of the school was taking pictures of us. Everyone, literally. I especially remember a guy that was pretending to call, except he didn't talk, and he also had his flash on, so we quickly understood he was also taking pictures. Us, being kids, thought it would be fun and sort of a game, so we started playing hide and seek with them and being like, he flashed me, I'm gonna die, or stupidities like that. But we really started to understand there was a real problem. When one of them tried to open the entry, that was kind of useless since the barriers weren't high enough, so if he wanted to get in, he could just climb up a little. And that's where the headmaster got totally mad and went to see everyone, yelling at them for around 10 minutes, called the police, and when she calmed down, she asked someone to explain why they were doing that. The headmaster told us herself that all these people pretended to be in some sort of voodoo and that they could sell pictures of us, make us suffer, etc. To be honest, everyone mostly laughed, but adults didn't seem to be amused at all. To this day, I don't know if what she said was true. I don't know if some people were arrested. I don't know what the pictures became. The thing I remember most is just that woman's smile that absolutely creeped me out. Today, I'm scared of being taken in photos, even by friends. And when it's family member or very close friends, I'm just really uncomfortable. Also, I apologize if some words are incorrect or if the story doesn't belong here. English isn't my native language and I am new to this sub. Sorry. So OP, you don't need to apologize. You did an amazing job at terrifying the living daylights out of me personally. OP also did give a few extra bits of information in the comments. Firstly, they don't have any proof, but when they asked their mother and friends about it, they had no idea what they were talking about because, as it turns out, the school just ignored everything and pretended it never happened, which OP says makes them think that the adults didn't tell the complete truth of what they were up to. And it also means that there's probably still some parents out there who know nothing about this because their kids didn't tell them. And OP said that they don't live somewhere where voodoo is in any way common. But as far as I'm concerned, even if the story isn't true, it's absolutely terrifying. Next, we have a story from Creepy Encounters. I saw these two strange people in my old neighborhood. This strange encounter took place in Brew Bridge, Louisiana. I hope that's how you pronounce that, but sorry if I butchered it. I lived in a relatively small neighborhood growing up, occupied with small mobile homes. The neighborhood I lived in was simply a long and narrow stretch of road with mobile homes on the left and right side. However, my family and I eventually moved to Carencro, Louisiana, as we needed a bigger house for the size of our family. Anyways, in this neighborhood, I had a decent number of friends. If I can remember correctly, I had about 3. Each night, my friends and I would play hide and seek in our neighborhood. In my opinion, it was probably the scariest but most fun game we've ever played. Especially scary if you're the seeker, walking around in the dark, all alone, looking for your friends as they hide, with that lingering thought that one of them could just pop out at you at any given moment. So for me personally, this story could end just right here and I would be fine because that sounds so scary. The night this strange encounter occurred, we were instead playing a game called Ding Dong Ditch. For those of you who don't know what ding dong ditching is, it's basically a game where you go up to a random person's house, knock on their door, and run away before they've had the chance to answer. So on the night of this strange encounter, that's what we were doing. We walked up and down the street ding dong ditching until our curfew struck, ending our night of fun sooner than we wanted. Now my friends lived all the way down the street of this neighborhood, and I, on the other hand, lived all the way down the opposite end of the street. Since we were on their end of the street, my friends went home first, leaving me to walk all the way back down the street, back to my house alone. As I walked down the quiet and empty street, I saw the outline of 2 people walking further down the street. These 2 people seemed to be very tall. I'm not even exaggerating when I say this, but those 2 people seemed to be at least 8 or 9 feet tall. Now, what really creeped me out in the moment was how both of these people looked exactly the same. Although I couldn't discern any facial features, their body shapes were unmistakably identical. They were both extremely tall, both the same height, and very skinny. They also didn't seem to have any clothes on. I know, sounds weird, but it's hard to put into words how their bodies looked. It was almost like their bodies were extremely smooth, to the point where it made them look naked. Imagine if someone really tall put on a plain coloured bodysuit. That's pretty much how their bodies looked. The only difference were they were just all skin. I mean, literally. That's it. If there was a bodysuit made out of pure skin and nothing else, that's how their bodies looked. OP, you've done way better than I would have done to be able to be this observant because I would have already been running personally. I also noticed how they both seemed to walk at the exact same pace, the same way you'd see soldiers do in the army. They took these long, rigid, fast-paced steps, and I just stared at them, not knowing if I should be scared or not. Not knowing if you should be scared or not? How old are you at this point, OP? You haven't said, but honestly, it doesn't matter. I feel like no matter what age you were, you definitely should have been scared. I was now about 4 houses away from my house. As I watched them, I couldn't really tell if they were actually walking away or towards my direction, as their bodies never seemed to grow any larger or smaller in the distance. It was almost like they were walking in place. Then I suddenly got this random flight or fight response in my body. My body chose flight and I full-on sprinted back to my house. It was like my body could sense that something was wrong. So instinctively, I ran. I had to run in their direction to get back to my house, but I would never come into direct contact with whoever these people were, as they were too far down the road, thankfully. I really never told anybody what I saw, mostly because I really didn't know what I saw. Maybe my mind could have been playing tricks on me, but what I saw felt real. After that incident, I never saw those people again. That's pretty much where this story ends off. Thanks for reading. That is so creepy to me, especially when your body gave that fight or flight response, even though you weren't sure if you should be scared or not. It seems like some primal, instinctive survival instinct kicked in your body that your brain hadn't even processed yet. Like your body knew something was wrong and that you were in danger. Oh, okay, this story gave me the chills. Next, we have another story from Creepy Encounters called Airbnb in Bali. This happened a few years ago, but upon discovering this sub, it reminded me of that incident and I wanted to share. The year 2018, me and 3 other friends, we were all males in our early 20s, decided to travel to Bali for about a week since it was cheap and we had time, so why not? I might be wrong, but I feel like OP and his friends are Australian or were at least staying in Australia because going to Bali is a really common and casual holiday that a lot of us Aussies will take, especially us here in Western Australia. Our itinerary includes sightseeing, trying local foods, mountain climbing, visiting bars at the beach, basically a typical vacation in Indonesia. It was honestly quite a surreal experience. The country is absolutely beautiful and the food was amazing. The only issue I had about the trip were the locals. Drugs were really prominent there, especially mushrooms. The streets were filled with druggies dying to sell us their drugs. I'm not exaggerating when I say this. One dude even grabbed my arm because I ignored his 2-for-1 deal for a one-way trip to meet Jesus. Definitely an interesting sales tactic. I shrugged him off while my friends laughed it off, suggesting that I may be passing up a chance to meet our Lord and Savior. He looked rabid and frantic, like he was about to pounce on me like a dog diagnosed with rabies. I didn't feel too afraid as we were confident that we could handle them since half of them were not even sober. However, that is only the tip of the iceberg. The horror starts when we went back to our Airbnb for the night. We had an early day the next morning and were exhausted. The place was extremely cheap and didn't even have a proper locking mechanism for the door. It had 2 wooden doors which swung inwards, and the only way to lock them was to wedge a wooden block through the holes mounted on the door. It was quite a primitive lock, but it gets the job done, I guess. You guess, OP? This does not sound safe at all. Everything was going well until the last night of our trip, when we realized that the wooden block was missing. We looked everywhere for it, but to no avail. I figured one of us must have misplaced it somewhere. We settled for using a selfie stick. I know, sounds like a horrible idea. Instead, since we didn't have anything that fits the holes to wedge the door closed, we turned in for the night, seemingly not expecting anything since we had already stayed there for 6 days with no issues. I woke to strange clicking sounds in the dead of the night. I got out of my bed and thought maybe it's one of the guys, so I nonchalantly approached the noise. My friends were all sleeping, so I decided to investigate the cause of the noise. The ruckus seemed to be coming from the door, so I headed towards them feeling extremely confused. Who could be at our doorstep at this time of night? I noticed the doors were slightly opened and the selfie stick was horribly deformed. I peeked outside and I saw 3 people staring through the gap in the doors. They were really close to the entrance and were attempting to push the doors open. I yelled at them, questioning their intentions, as I noticed one of them was holding the wooden block. How did they get the wooden block? Doesn't that mean that they had to have been there earlier? I was shocked and puzzled at the situation as I recognized one of the men. He did the overall cleaning for the Airbnbs and pathways during the day, so there was no reason for him to be there at 3 a.m. The other dude asked if the wooden block belonged to us, as they allegedly found it outside of our Airbnb. I definitely smelled bullshit, as there was absolutely no reason to do this at 3 a.m. I called for my guys and the 3 men immediately ran for it. I clued in the guys on the circumstances and we stayed up until the morning came in case they tried anything funny. We decided to report to the reception about their employee, but the description I gave them was not synonymous with theirs. They told me the housekeepers they hired consists of only females in their late 30s and 40s. This sent shivers down our spines as we came to realize we had let a complete imposter in and out of our rooms while we were out. This is horrifying, and it makes the previous night so much more ominous, because what were those guys planning on doing? Luckily, nothing important was lost and we got out of the situation safely. I can't imagine what would happen if I didn't wake up on that fateful night as the doors were close to being opened. I'm just grateful that it was our last night there. Me too, OP. This story gave me chills, and I am just so happy that you guys are safe. Someone in the comments left a suggestion about leaving a review on Airbnb about the cleaning staff being women, and I think that's probably a great idea so that people who stay there in the future have some forewarning. Okay, so this next one is a bit of a long one from Let's Not Meet, and it's called Feeling Safe When I Should Have Not. I am French. Excuse my English. I don't even know if that was intentional, but it's such a cute little twist on pardon my French. But as with the first post, if there's any mistakes, I might just correct as I go so that everything's more streamlined. This story happened a few months ago. At that time, I had moved out of my house for a professional reason, but I had to wait a couple of months before moving into my next house. To spend this time span, and since I can work from anywhere, I rented my very close friend Amy's holiday family house, which is otherwise empty, located in a village I grew up in on the countryside. I've known this family and their house very well since I was a small child. The house is rather large. It has 2 floors and 5 bedrooms. It is located on a quiet or even remote area of the village, only surrounded by forest and other empty holiday houses. While planning this, I was aware this setting could be scary for a single 27-year-old female, exactly what I was thinking, OP. But I hate to restrain myself in life because of unjustified fears. So instead, I took a few measures to feel more safe. Before moving in, I had planned to go on a complete checkup of all of the doors and windows. Once done, I would look into every room, under every bed, and inside all the wardrobes. This way, I could be certain that the house was perfectly empty at that moment and would stay so, as I would be very careful with closing the doors, and I know there were no spare keys. So that when at night I would be scared, I could reason with myself and know that it is only in my head. This sounds like a relatively solid plan, I guess, OP, but I know I would personally still be capable of freaking myself out into being terrified. I was accompanied by my mother to proceed with the checkup as she lives close by. We faced a problem rather quickly while verifying doors and windows. 2 glass doors from the patio were malfunctioning and one could just slide them open. The layout of the 2 doors was the following. One was looking towards the garden. The second one was between the patio and the rest of the house. This meant someone could not only get inside the patio from outside, but also in the rest of the house. OP's added here with a little asterisk, not sure about the word veranda, a room with only large windows or wide glass sliding doors instead of walls. Okay, so we have another door lock issue, guys. Going by OP's description here, I'm going to pop up a picture of what I'm personally imagining myself, just to help any of you guys that are struggling to picture the situation she's trying to describe. And that is very freaky that someone would be able to access the house so easily. After this discovery, I called my friend Amy and we agreed I would find a locksmith. Amy's family's financial situation isn't at its peak, so depending on the price, either only the door leading to the garden or both doors would get fixed. But the price was reasonable, thus the locksmith lady could change both locks. The patio was then perfectly sealed. However, according to her, the glass door leading to the garden was weak and one could easily open it if motivated. Locksmith lady, that is such a sinister way to word that. If motivated, like what motivation are we talking about here? But since the glass door between the patio and the rest of the house was safe, I did not mind that remark. One could have as much fun as they pleased in that patio as long as I was safe in my house. After that and a successful second checkup, I was happy to move in. The first days were a bit scary, but since I was careful with the doors and the house's surroundings were so peaceful and lovely, it quickly became bliss to live there. I was heating myself with the fireplace, eating good food, breathing fresh air. I felt very free and happy. Only I had to notice a small, odd detail in the very first days. A third glass door was not locking anymore. I got very surprised since I checked so carefully every single door during my checkup. This third door was right next to the one I got repaired between the patio and the house. So this meant that the patio was not perfectly sealed anymore. But fine, I thought. All doors leading to the outside were still locked, so no need to worry. I think Lily's dreaming about that cat from earlier. Okay, hold the phone here, OP. Didn't you say that the glass door leading from the garden was weak and that a motivated person could get through it? So now, if someone does get through there, there's literally nothing to stop them from accessing the rest of the house, right? You say no need to worry, but to me, this is need to worry. I quickly moved on since I felt so happy there. I did not want any useless fear to bother me. I came to the conclusion I must have missed it, and I was a bit ashamed that I got Amy's family to spend money on 2 locks, whereas it should have been 3 because of my carelessness. After 2 wonderful months living a dream, mostly on my own since all my childhood friends moved out of the village, a friend came to visit me. We spent some time outside and we had a drink at my place before I drove him back to his village about an hour away. While we were leaving my house, he even emphasized how meticulous I was with closing all the shutters behind ourselves. I told him it was key for me to feel so good in there. I was back home at about 10 p.m. I entered my perfectly sealed house and locked the door behind myself. While turning the key out of the blue, sudden and intense goosebumps ran all over my scalp. I have never experienced such a feeling, and I was not even aware that the human body could get goosebumps on the scalp. With that came a very instinctive feeling of danger and being on my guard. I felt all of this so intensely that I was not able to ignore it, yet I knew my house was kept perfectly closed. So I stayed cautious, but I walked through the entrance and came into the kitchen. Here, on the floor, was laying a rectangular plastic bag. It was small and blue on the orange floor. I was surprised. I recognized it as being a plastic bag to be filled with water to make ice cubes. It had nothing to do here. I had already seen these bags earlier when I was looking for freezer bags to put my food in, and I mistook them. I knew they were stored in a drawer at the very other side of the kitchen, and I knew we did not use them, nor anything from that drawer with my friend earlier. This uncanny discovery confirmed my gut feeling, and I began to feel very uneasy. I sent a picture to my friend asking if he had touched or used these. He said no. Keep me in touch. I grabbed a knife and started walking in the living room. So I've seen way too many horror movies with this exact scene in it, and they're all running in my head at the same time right now, and my entire body is just shouting for OP to run. Usually, whenever I would feel afraid in this house, I would go on a little checkup tour in every room to reassure myself. That is what I had in mind at that moment, but this gut feeling was literally forbidding my body to do so. Instead, it walked me out of the house. I drove to my mother's place and slept there. Thank God for that. A few days later, during a sunny afternoon, my mother and I came back and did a checkup thoroughly. Nothing was missing nor broken, and no one was there. Everything stayed exactly as I had left it. With such evidence, I came to the conclusion it must have been my friend who, by accident, took those bags and forgot about it. Then they must have fallen on the floor when I opened the door, or something like that. I came back in and kept living a dream in this beautiful place for another month after that. Then something else happened. For a few days, I had been hearing unusual noises, which began to scare me, so I decided it was time for a checkup. It was around 9 p.m. I began going in every room, looking under every bed. Downstairs, all clear. I walked upstairs, opened the first bedroom, and surprise, the light was on. This caused me a small flinch. I never go to these rooms upstairs, and they remain closed all the time. Nevertheless, I walk towards the wardrobe, but before opening it, I get a second flinch as an unknown object is now laying on top of the furniture. I opened the wardrobe, nobody. I closed it and looked at the object. It is an elongated black fabric sheath, rather big, with a hook to carry it on a belt. A terrifying idea crosses my mind that it might be a knife sheath, but I brush it off as I don't need my imagination to get crazy in such a situation. I finished my checkup, but despite nobody being found, I could not help feeling weird about the sheath and the light. I went to sleep at my mother's place that night too. The day after, I checked with my friend Amy. No family member came into the house while I was away, nor did they recognize the object as belonging to any of them. I dropped it at the police station, and according to them, it is likely a hunting knife sheath indeed. Then I started thinking again about this patio's third door. It had been on my mind for some weeks, but I had been dismissing the idea to avoid unnecessary fear. Reflecting back at my thorough entrance checkup, it is very unlikely I would have missed a door. As well, the locksmith had changed the lock of the door right next to this one and even stared at it to see what a well-functioning lock looked like. With Amy, we had imagined that an old Airbnb tenant could have made a copy of the keys and the locks had to be changed. But more and more, I was sure the person was coming into the house from the patio. Another locksmith came and looked at the third door's lock and she said, "Ah, yes indeed." I'm not even going to attempt the French here. You're welcome. The lock part screwed on the door frame where the lock embeds itself had been screwed off. She also checked the door leading to the garden her colleague had pointed out as easy to open. She said, "Ah, yes, that's obvious." I'll try this one. "Ah, oui, là c'est sûr. Ah, oui." Meaning there was very little chance for all of that to be a coincidence. I left the house for good after that. I believe a person had their little habits in this house and they made sure to be able to reach inside the place despite my changes. Thinking that all this time I was living my life peacefully, reasoning with myself not to be scared, that this place was safe and locked, it was actually not. Thank you very much for reading. You are incredibly welcome, OP. Thank you for such a suspenseful and eerie story. I still have goosebumps thinking about the knife sheath just left out where anyone could find it. And I'm so happy that OP made it out safe and unscathed, although I am terrified at the potential chance that she and this stranger spent multiple nights together in that house with her having absolutely no idea. That is nightmare material. For our last story, once again from Creepy Encounters, we have the time I regretted smiling at a neighbor. I grew up in Arizona in a relatively safe city. Before myself or any of my friends had a driver's license, we would walk everywhere just to get out of the house and do something. Typically going to Circle K for a soda and snacks or Walmart/Target just to browse around. One time, back when my two friends and I were 15, we were walking back to her house through her neighborhood around sunset. At that time, everyone in Arizona was fairly friendly, so whenever you would pass by another person or a group, you would exchange hello or wave. This time in particular, we were walking past a house on a corner that had a kitchen light on, where a middle-aged man was washing his dishes. When he made eye contact with us, my natural instinct was to smile and my friend's was to wave. What a bad idea. The man immediately dropped his dishes in the sink and what felt like 1 second later was outside on the corner, staring at us in an aggressive stance with both hands balled into fists. All of our flight or fight responses were completely different. One friend immediately took off running in the other direction. My other friend peed her pants. Lol. And I was frozen in complete fear. He started charging towards us in full force, and I'm so grateful that my friend grabbed my arm and we all started running as fast as we could. I was so scared I was in last place. The man was well built and appeared to be in great shape and had no troubles catching up to us. As I'm running, I can hear his footsteps very close behind me. He reached his hand out, tried to grab hold of my hair, but the adrenaline finally kicked in and I was able to speed off beyond his grip. After a while of running, we realized we were no longer being chased. We hid in safety and called my friend's mum to pick us up and told her what happened. We gave her the location of the house and all vowed never to go near that house again. The next morning, we wake up and her mum explained she checked the address of the house and someone living there was a registered sex offender. Not sure if it was explicitly because of this incident, but my friend moved houses shortly after this. Our mums all collectively agreed we were not allowed to walk alone around anyone's neighborhood and that if we wanted to go out, a parent should be close by. Good plan, guys. Good work. I completely forgot about this until I was recently talking to my friend and she brought this night up. I sometimes wonder what would have happened if this man had gotten a better grip on my hair, but I'm thankful to say we got away unharmed. At 27 today, I carry a pocket knife and pepper spray with me at all times. I'm so glad OP got away unharmed as well. Obviously, we don't know that the man was a registered sex offender, just that someone living in that house was. But to have that reaction to just just some girls walking past smiling and waving. I mean, obviously this story would not have had a good ending if OP had been caught because there was something up with this guy. But that is where we are leaving off today. I really hope you guys enjoyed these creepy stories. I would love to hear your thoughts in the comments down below. I personally find it fascinating hearing about when people's fight or flight responses kick in and the circumstances that bring it on, because I would say that the majority of us have felt that at least at one point in our lives. And I think it's so interesting that even when we don't consciously know what's going on or we can't comprehend a certain danger, that our bodies have this primal inbuilt survival defense system to just kick us into action. And I'm so glad that no one in these stories were harmed and were actually alive and well enough to make these posts. Thank you so much for hanging out with us today, guys. We appreciate you so much. And if you are still here and not already subscribed, then I would just love if you did that so you don't miss out on any future hangouts and you, me, and Lily can be best friends forever. And those of you that are subscribed, of course, and tune in for all of these videos, thank you so much. It means the absolute world. We hope you have a magical rest of your week, and me and Lily will be counting down the hours until we see you in the next one. Bye.